Welcome to TVET Tutorials. My name is Doc, and let us do computer practice info, shall we? Let's get right to it. So on today's episode, I want to take you guys through the basic formulae that you find in Excel. For us to even get to that, we need to understand what are formulae, right? In Excel, basically calculations are done by what we call formula. Excel recognizes that you are trying to perform a formula when you actually punch in your equal sign. So we're gonna go ahead on our screen and do the practical work. Now that we are on our screen, we already have a table in front of us with a bunch of information, and if you can have a look at the cell that is highlighted, it requires us to calculate the total for all the stocks and also all the selling. So I'm going to take you guys through how to actually do those calculations. However, like I mentioned before, for Excel to actually recognize that you are trying to perform a formula, you need to begin your formula with an equal sign. Once Excel picks up that you have inserted an equal sign, it recognizes that you are trying to perform a formula, right? So if you have a look at your formula bar here on top, this is where you will be able to see your formula. You can also see your formula on your cell that you are actually typing the formula on. However, once you click enter after typing your formula, the formula will disappear and instead you will get your answer since it is a calculation. However, that formula will still be visible on your formula bar. The first basic formula that I want us to go through is called the sum function. Basically, the sum function replaces your addition in maths. Now, instead of using the plus signs in Excel, we use something called the sum function, and this is what it looks like. So we have our table in front of us. We need to determine the total for all the stock that we have for Planned Paradise Garden Center. So wherever you need to do your formula, you need to click on that cell, and then, as I said before, for Excel to actually recognize that you are about to perform a formula, you need to begin that formula with an equal sign. If you do not include an equal sign, it will not recognize it as a formula. Therefore, whatever you end with will just be what you typed in instead of calculations. So we're gonna do the total for the stocks. Type in your equal sign, and then you will say sum. Once you say sum, you will get this window. Basically, this window is a list of all the formulas that are related to sum, but we only want to focus on the first one, which is this one, sum. And if you have a look, it also explains to us what this formula does. So it says here, adds all the numbers in a range of cells. That's what basically the sum formula does. So once you have typed in the sum, then you would need to have an open bracket. Once you have your open bracket, then you would need to manually select the range of cells that you want to add. So in our instance, we need to add from here all the way to here. Once you have highlighted all your cells, then you can close your formula. Once you have closed your formula, that means your formula is complete, right? After you have closed your formula, then you hit on enter. Once we hit on enter, we should get the total number of all the stocks, right? So let's go ahead and hit enter and see what happens. There we go. We get 123. Now, as I mentioned earlier on, if you click on the cell where you performed your formula, you should be able to see the formula on the formula bar. So let's go ahead and click on the cell. There's our cell. It is highlighted, but we still get our answer, which is 123. Again, if you move over to your formula bar, there is your function. So if ever you need to make changes on your formula, you can make the changes on your formula bar. Or another way is you can double click on your highlighted cell or where you actually did your formula, and then you can edit your formula from there. The next basic function or the next basic formula we find in Excel is called highest or max. So basically what max or highest does is it pulls out the highest number in a list of number or in a range of values. So let us go ahead and be practical about it. We are gonna say equals, and then max. Once you type in max, you should get the information about that formula, which tells us that it returns the largest value in a set of values, ignores logical values and text. That's what basically it does. It pulls through the largest or the highest value in a set of values, and it ignores all logical values or text. We're going to do the same thing as we did before. We are going to have an open bracket, and then we are going to select our range, which will be from the first cell where we have 20 all the way to the last cell where we have 20, and then we close our formula. Once we have closed our formula, then we hit on enter, and then we see what happens. There we go. Therefore, this means 33 is the highest number in this list. Another basic formula that we find in Excel is called min. Min, for MIN, means we are pulling out the lowest number in a list of values. So basically, the lowest formula operates the exact opposite as the highest formula, or max. Now, instead of saying max, we are going to say min for minimum. Again, we're gonna say equal min, and it will explain to us, returns the smallest number in a set of values, ignores logical values and text. Again, you need to have an open bracket, highlight your range of cells, and then close bracket, and then hit on enter. We get 5. This means 5 is the lowest number on these highlighted cells over here. Another basic formula that we find in Excel is called average. Basically, the average means we are pulling the arithmetic mean from a set of values, right? So let's go ahead and be practical about it. We're gonna click on equal, and we're gonna type out the whole word average. There we go. Explains that the average returns the average or arithmetic mean of its arguments, which can be numbers or names, arrays, or references that contain numbers. We do the same thing. We have an open bracket, and then we highlight our cells that we need to pull the average from, and then we have a closed bracket, and then once you hit on enter, we will get the average from these list of numbers. So our average is 17.57143. Now, notice how on this cell we have the number appearing as a decimal number. To reduce these decimal numbers to 2 decimal places, you can either click on decrease decimals until you have the last 2, or remove all the decimals and it will round off to the nearest number, right? Another way you can do this is you can right click on your cell and then go to format cells. From here, you can select how many decimal places you want to appear on your cell. So now we want to remove all the decimal places. We want to have 0 decimal places. So we're going to click on the bottom arrow here, which will take us all the way to 0. Once you get to 0, you click on OK. It will remove all the decimal places and you are left with a whole number. Now, the nice thing about Excel is that it has a very handy tool where you can actually copy all your formula onto the next column or onto the next cell without having to retype them all over again. And that function is called Autofill. Basically, Autofill copies all your formula onto the next column or onto the next cell. So let us be practical about it. If you highlight your cells that has formulas that you want to copy, on the bottom right corner of this block, you would see you have a little dot here on top. That is basically your autofill function. If you hover over this dot, you would see that your cursor actually turns from a light cross to a thick cross. Once you get this thick cross, that means then you can perform your autofill. So all you need to do is just hold on it and then drag it over to the next column or over to the next cell. And then once you have dragged it, just release and it will copy the formula onto the next column. There we go. Thank you for tuning in. Remember to like, share, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel for more lesson videos by myself and my team at TVET Tutorials. Click on that bell icon so that you are instantly notified every time we drop a new lesson video. Until then, adios.